Welcome to my video on the new 12.9 patch on Tarkov. We're going to go today through every single bartering item on the level 1 traders. New stupid fucking new headset, okay. We're going to go through what's good, what's bad, and what I think you can keep and what you can't keep, and what's worth it, what's your decision, etc, etc. It really is up to you though, guys. Like, if you want to hold on to soap for something, hold on to soap for something. But if you're going to be running around and you see like something worth more than soap, probably take that, sell it. You could probably buy your thing after a few times like that. But we'll go through everything today and we will discuss what I think's the best, and you can leave your comments below what you think's the best. So starting with Prapor, you have the BP ammo pack for wipers. Now, this is a really good trade, especially early game, to get some BP ammo for your 5.4s. This ammo is going to be better than anything you can buy early game as well. So if you do see some wiper fluid around there, it is not too bad to grab it and chuck it in your bag. But again, if you're over level 10, you can get this on the market, so you could probably pick up something better than wiper fluid. BT, again, same deal as the BS, but the Tushanka cans are needed for a quest. So as long as you've done the quest that needs them, you can go for gold, but these are going to sell on the flea market for quite a lot and probably worth the money. So I don't recommend this one. Zenit PSO scope, the 2 spark plugs. It's a very good trade in my opinion. Spark plugs are needed for a quest. I think you need 7 of them, but again, early game spark plugs are quite common. So if you need a scope, they fit on most guns. It's a very good early game trade. AKS 74U, 1 bronze horse and 1 cleaner. Now, bronze horses go for about 10k on the flea market. Cleaner now on the new wipe is actually needed for the hideout nutrition level 3. But again, early game, if you need a gun and you've got one of these sitting around, it's not bad. You're going to bring the cleaner because you could probably sell it on the flea market for like 60 odd k it was going for when I checked. But if you need a gun, it's a decent trade. It's really up to you. The AKM for 3 Tushanka cans. I do not recommend this trade, as you need 15 of these Tushanka cans for a mission for therapist. And again, unless you really need the gun, they have to be found in raid. So if you put Tushanka in your pouch and then you were trying to get out, or you don't have it found in raid, then maybe it's worth the trade. But again, probably not worth the trade. PM pistol for bolts and nuts, definitely not worth the trade, boys. Bolts and nuts are going for so much right now. Like, do not trade for this PM pistol. It is one of the worst pistols in the game, in my opinion, and it is definitely not. You could trade bolts and nuts and buy a way better gun. The APS pistol, I do not recommend this trade. Screws are but bolts, they're like 60k on the market. They've been 60k on the market all early wipe. Unless you check the market and they're going for cheap at the time you watch this video, it's not a good trade. If you watch this video later in the wipe and screws are going for a couple of thousand and bolts are still going for a couple of thousand, it'll be a good trade. I like this pistol. It's a very good pistol. But early game, not a great trade. Especially if you're early game yourself, you need a lot of bolts and screws for your hideout. PP19, it is a good trade for the 5 T-plugs, but again, it's really up to you if you want to keep 5 T-plugs for space. If you find one, throw it in your backpack. If you need to throw it out, I would, because the PP is not a great gun. But if you get 5 T-plugs, it's a free gun, so it's a decent trade. The Mosin, it comes with a scope, which is very good. For the 5D batteries and the 8 AA batteries. Again, exactly the same as the PP. If you want to collect these things to get the Mosin and lose the stash place, it is worth it. But again, it's really up to you. The stash base is going to be lot. You may not find. You need to find 13 items. It's very hard to get out. Again, that one's completely up to you. I do love the Mosin though. I do try to get a Mosin, but I don't think I ever. Once you hit a certain stage late game, you can just buy these things. Therapist, the rapist. Therapist level 1. First item is the painkillers for 2 matches. That is a good trade. That is a very good trade. Matches are quite common. two of them to get 4 lots of painkillers early game. They're your only real option for painkillers. Decent. It's a decent trade. Salewa, the paid, decent trade. But you don't find paid that often. So if you get the paid, throw it in your pouch, and we go from there. Pile of meds for 4 crickets and 4 matches. Now that's a good trade. But again, it comes down to the stash space. If you'd like trade 8 items for 1, meds are quite important. On level 2, you can get a pistol case, and you can craft meds in your hideout with them. But again, collecting these things, it's completely up to you. But that is a good trade, in my opinion. Car kit for 2 duct tapes. Duct tapes are very easy to find right now, especially around in cabinets and drawers. It's easy healing. It's cheap healing. Just remember you don't need to heal up to level 5, but yeah, that's a decent trade. Snickers for 1 bottle of Vita Juice. I don't think you're ever going to leave the raid with Vita Juice, so I don't think this is even worth talking about. If you find juice and food in raid, you should just eat it. Keep your stats up. Salary, good trade if you need food. 1 lighter, one matches, but again, if you find food in raid, just eat it. The lunchbox for the syringe, in my opinion, not a great trade, as you need syringes for the med case at a later level on Therapist. So just remember, I would not trade that. Okay, skier level 1, Zenit RP1 charging handle, 1 DVD player, 1 set of wires. A very easy addition to your modding if it fits on your guns. Does make the ergonomics a bit better. Can be modded in raid. The trade's not a bad deal itself, but I wouldn't be looking to get it. It's really not worth the space. But if you have a DVD player and a set of wires, definitely worth the trade. It's definitely worth the trade if you have the items. You do need a lot of wires for your stash, so just remember that. DVD players are quite useless. If you do get, I would be throwing DVD players out most of the time in my backpack anyway, so you would probably get the option to trade very often. The Vepr for 2 bronze horses. Now, bronze horses are pretty common. They go for about 10k on the flea market post level 10. That's a 20k gun. That's not a bad trade. I haven't found anything I've needed for bronze horses just yet, early game, so if you have them, it's a good trade. Now the ADAR trade, 1 rec battery and 2 chainlets. Now, I do love the ADAR. It's one of my favorite guns. I'm a very semi-auto focused player. But the fact that if you look at the gun correctly, it does not have a rear sight. Now that's going to be very detrimental, in my opinion. Even putting a sight on is very bad with the ADAR because of that gas chamber at the front. But if you're into that sort of thing and want to mod it a little bit, it's not a bad trade, but I wouldn't recommend it. Early players, definitely not. It's a little bit of modding and stuff that you probably don't want to deal with. The Peacekeeper level 1, we just got to remember that Peacekeeper does use dollars instead of rubles. Always keep an eye on your dollars. You do need dollars for a few quests, and you do need dollars to purchase a few things later in the game. But early game, we'll just go through a few trades. 1 grenade for 2 Zibbos. That is a good trade in my opinion. You cannot get grenades early game except from this trade. So if you do pick up Zibbos, they're a good trade in my opinion. Later on in your hideout, you can use M67 grenades and smoke grenades to craft the Eagle gunpowder, which is used in a lot of other builds and crafting in the hideout. Now, these are 2 of my favorite trades for beginners, because beginners are doing a lot of scav runs. Okay, I don't do too many scav runs. I try to avoid them. But as a new player, as an early game, you are doing scav runs. So pull those knives off of those scavs. So the P22-6 is 4 of the black handle knives, and the HK MP5 is 8 of the brown knives. Now, that's a free gun, easy money for space. If you have the space in your stash, I'd be collecting the knives 100%. The MBSS backpack is the biggest backpack you can trade for or buy early game, and it's 1 HDD. It's worth it, in my opinion. You do need HDDs for another thing, but not really that much, and they won't go for too much later in the game on the flea market. So this is a good trade. There is a trade on the Ragman that uses 2 dog tags for the exact same bag. I would choose this one over the Ragman one because dog tags can be used for other things, especially if they're over a certain level. Now mechanic, by far the most trades, so let's crack on with it, eh? Okay, the VOG grenade for the fuse, good trade early game. This is the other grenade that I forgot about. Good trade, but you can remember the fuses can be used in the hideout to create more grenades later. 5 fuses would be needed for that trade, and you can, I believe, make 8 grenades. So you want to keep them for the workbench. It's worth it. If not, just quick trade, quick grenade. Night scope, the Vulcan night scope. 1 drill, 1 broken G phone. If you need it, grab it. That's a good trade for the night scope if you need it. But I don't know how often you would actually need to be using night scopes, especially as an early shit can't. But if it's a good trade, go for it. It may suit your build, it may not. Now the night vision monocular is a good trade, in my opinion, early game. Two broken LCDs and 1 G phone. But if you look down later in the trade, you can also buy all the gear for 1 trade. Now that is 1 Bitcoin, and we'll go through that in a second. But this is a good trade if you need it. The MP133 plastic is needed for gunsmith level 1, part 1. Also is a good trade to add to any of your MP133 shotguns. It reduces the recoil a little bit and adds some ergonomics. It is a decent part. If you have HDDs around, HDDs are really good trade items. The B11, 1 green battery, 2 D batteries. If you get that stuff out, I would trade for it if you want to upgrade your AK-74U. But because then you can add the foregrip and some tax. If you do have skier level 3 at this point, which I highly doubt, it is only 6 grand. You may be able to pick it up, but it's not a bad trade. It's not a bad trade. AK-74U, if you can get these parts out, I like this trade. I really do. I was doing some research on the big green battery and the D battery, and I really do like this trade. In my opinion, the addition of tax and a foregrip to your AK-74U is definitely worth it. This is a no-brainer. If you get a Tetris out, in your pouch, change it for the Bitcoin. Especially early game. In my opinion, the Bitcoin has a lot more uses than the Tetris. Unless you're going to sell the Tetris directly on the flea market. 1 wires and 2 capacitors for the TT Brunner. Honestly, it's a good trade. If you have these items in your stash, and you need a pistol, you want to do a pistol quick factory run, it's a good trade. It really is. Other than that, it's not a great trade later in the wipes, but early, and especially for those on hardcore, that's a great trade. The Glock 17 for 3 hats, I don't recommend this. Getting the hats out is hard. They're very rare. They go for a lot of money later. You need them for a quest. And they're just going to be used in stash space. I would not recommend this at all. The MP133 shotgun, it's already kitted out. It has a choke, it has tax, it has a sight. That is a very good gun early. 2 elite pliers and a screwdriver. I definitely recommend this trade. The MPX, I've talked about this one on my beginner's guide to weapons and starting off. 5 DVD players, 5 UV lights, and weapon parts. It is a saucy gun. It's kitted to the max. It will use a lot of space finding this stuff, but weapon parts and UV lights and DVD players are basically not used for anything else yet, so if you do have them, get this. If you get a Rolex out and you want the PP19 that's modded and kitted to fuck, go for it. But you do need Rolexes for your scav junk box in your hideout, so in my opinion, I've still got mine, I'm saving for that. Set of tools, it's definitely worth it. You need the set of tools for a lot of quests, you need the set of tools for a lot of things in the game. You should be collecting these for a lot of things. If these are 5 items, that's 4, it's a no-brainer. If you are making toolkits for a reason, get it. MP7 with a Bitcoin. The Bitcoin trades for quite a lot of money. So unless you really want the MP7 to use for a raid, I wouldn't recommend it. But if that's your gun and you want that, go for it. It's easy kitted, easy modding, but you can make this a lot cheaper. UMP 45 was the one we were talking about last. The Peacekeeper for the mag. DVD player, HDD, 2 capacitors. Very cheap gun, very good early gun. And you can trade for the mags as well. So, decent trade. Now, the elite pliers that we also can use for the MP3 Tactical in the mechanic are pliers, nippers, and R pliers. Very good trade. If you're getting these pliers out, the nippers are also good for a CMS with Jaeger. But, yeah. If you want to do some night raids, 1 Bitcoin early is probably worth it. There's not too many people that are doing night raids early. They will be sweaty because they're going to be better players. Unless you're more experienced, I would avoid the night raid. You want to be knowing the maps. You want to be knowing the corners and stuff before going to a night raid. But yeah, that's a good trade in my opinion. Very early game. And this is probably one of my favorite trades early game. Is the ammo case. It helps so much just with organization. 5 blue gunpowders, 2 green gunpowders, and you've got yourself a nice ammo case. I myself, as you can see on the top right of my screen, I have a found in raid and a not found in raid one. So I save the ammo in the found in raid and I use the ammo from the not found in raid. Ragman, level 1. He's a nice one. The visor I've talked about in my last video for beginner loadouts. I do recommend getting the visor if you're going to run with the riot helmet, but it's only that that's the only situation. The Ratnik helmet, I will be doing a video on the low level hideout. That'll probably be my next video. If you're crafting bleach in your hideout, these helmets are quite easy to make. So if you do have the bleach, it's a free helmet. They're nice helmets, level 3, high ricochet. They're good helmets. Packer vest early game for the mask is a no-brainer. They are only for early games or if you need armor. Even if you come into the wipe later, basically need to be coming in with some sort of armor. You should be collecting masks. Masks are needed. Masks are quite easy to stash. One, wear it, whatever. In my opinion, this is a good trade. Again, another good trade. Level 3 tack rig, 6B515. Soap and toilet paper. Easy enough to find. It's a nice level 3 rig for early game. The GSH headset, 2 papers. It is a good trade. It really is if you like the headset. Now, the GSSH amplifies everything. So, if you're used to that headset, 100% roll it. If not, skip along. The MBS's backpack for 2 dog tags. It's definitely, if you have some low-level dog tags, it's good. I would not be using higher than 15 level dog tags for this bag. But if you got some level 1s and 2 dog tags, this is a good trade. Army bag for the chocolate. I do not recommend. Chocolate can be used in the hideout to make sugar. I'd hold on to the chocolate and make sugar. Eventually you can make moonshine with all this stuff and you make a lot of money. Now if you are lucky enough to unlock Jaeger, little bonus for those who have been in woods and fucking ratted around and got to the hideout and back out. With the new map as well, it can get confusing. So we will go through level 1 Jaeger right now. SB5 mag for the Zippo. I don't recommend it. Use the Zippos for the grenades. Unless you need the mag because you've done a scav and got a Salga out, I wouldn't bother. CMS kit for nippers. It's the only place you can buy a CMS kit early. Repair limbs in raid. Highly recommend it. Unless you're using the nippers for the shotgun, the nippers are very useful here. The EKP reflex sight is a bad trade, baby. Bad. You do not want to use 2 bolts early game for this sight. You need bolts for your hideout, and they sell on the flea market at level 10 for a ridiculous amount. SPRM is a really good trade. 2 matches and 1 Apollo. Apollos aren't used for anything else that I've seen so far, and matches are quite common. And you can add this to most shotguns and then add a sight to. So if you get out on a scav and you want to add a sight to a shotgun, it's a very easy part to add to your shotgun repertoire. OPS SK dovetail mount. If you go back and watch my video on how to kit out the SKS to SK Sex, you'll know that this is a good trade. This is a really good item for SKSs, especially the OP's variety. MP153 shotgun, 2 wrenches and two screwdrivers. Not a great trade, to be honest. When you can buy the shotgun MP133 for 23k, you need wrenches for your hideout. You need wrenches for a few things. They sell quite well. It's a trade if you really want that MP153, but that is all. The army bag for soap. Personally, I'd use the soap for the armor if you had it, but if you needed a quick bag and you had soap, it's not a bad trade. I try not to run into any raid without some sort of backpack. Fuel 15 matches for 5 matches. I would not recommend this. It's just 20 spaces in your stash that's going to be used up just for one fuel. If you need it, I'd be looking at saving it, but other than that, it's not a great trade for me. So I hope that educated you. You saw all the bartering items. Next time you go on raid, you might have picked up something that you're like, oh shit, I'm gonna see that, and I'm gonna pick that up, and I'm gonna carry it around with me until the end of the raid. And if I get out with it, I can save it and trade it maybe. It's really up to you. Most of this information is just information. Tarkov is an information-based game. So follow me on YouTube, hit that subscribe button, like my video, follow me on Twitch, TikTok, all my socials. Thanks for watching.